on YouTube.
Oh.
Hey everyone, sorry that we're late. If you are just joining us, well, I guess everyone would technically just be joining us. Had some technical difficulties, which pushed us a little farther back than we expected. Cara, I just messaged you the link to the YouTube if you want to share that or send that out to anyone. So, if everybody's ready, let's jump in and get started. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of AfroLatinos. This is your co-host, Aubin.
And Chandler.
And today we are concluding the Black History Month series. Over the past couple of weeks, we have taken this month to invite various experts in their field and or people who have something to say. And so we have been talking about primarily race in a lot of different fields of life. We've talked about race in the field of education. We heard from Dwayne Graves as he talked about his experiences in the military, as well as last week talking about entrepreneurship with Nishan Trotter, the owner of Trot Fitness here in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. And so this week, we have invited a friend of mine, Cara Clase, coming all the way from... Are you from Delaware, Cara?
No, I'm from Ohio.
Well, wow. Well, coming all the way from Ohio, coming at you from wherever she's coming from. This is Cara Clase, everybody. Welcome, Cara. What's up?
What's up? I'm just sharing the link real quick. Join us. Trying to help out.
We got one viewer right now. It's probably you as you're opening and sharing the link. So.
I didn't even open YouTube. I think that's legit.
Okay, well then you're good. Then it's a viewer on Facebook. Hello, Facebook viewer. What's up? And so, Cara, as you're getting settled in here, I will preview the episode for everyone, just letting everybody know kind of what's going on. So, on this episode today, we are reopening up a conversation that we previously had with our friend Seth Sponhouse, who Cara happens to know quite well. We are all at one point in time Millersvillians, and so in the previous conversation with Seth, who is the executive director of the Community Theater League in Williamsport, we were talking about race and how it affects the theater industry from a director of theater's experience. And so on this episode, we wanted to take it to an actor's perspective. Now, of course, we know that Seth still does some acting, but from someone who is primarily an actor or has had experiences being an actor, we wanted to invite Cara on to talk about her experiences. And so, Cara, give us a little bit about who you are, where you come from, and then we will begin in our conversation.
Okay, so you covered some of this. I am currently a PhD student at the University of Delaware. I am studying public policy, basically. And before that, I got my master's in econ. And then while we were at Millersville, my bachelor's was in economics with a minor in mathematics. So sometimes when I'm talking to people who are sort of in my academic sphere, sort of like in my work circle, they're very surprised to learn that I do musical theater, just because that's not a typical hobby of someone who's in academia. It's especially rare for somebody to be engaged in theater during their PhD studies, just because it's so intense and it requires so much time. Sure. But I do it because, one, it forces me to manage my time well, because if I know I'm going to be going to rehearsal at 6:00, then I know I'm going to have to be very disciplined about how I use the time in my day. Mm-hmm. And it's also, I don't think it's really healthy to immerse yourself completely in a PhD program and not do anything else outside of that. So I've been able, luckily, to at least pre-pandemic, to remain active in theater. But yeah, I mean, I'm from Ohio. my parents moved around a lot as I grew up, but I was born, and there were a couple periods in my life where I lived in different places in Ohio, and that's where a lot of my extended family live, both my father's side and my mother's side. So sometimes the Midwestern jumps out of me. I'm like, pop. Or I say,
oh no! Every time I go home, I don't know, Cara, if you know, I'm from Newcastle, PA, which is like 15 minutes outside of the Ohio border. So I'm out that way too. But yeah, every time I go up there, the yins and all that Pittsburghness comes out, and I just like and washing the clothes. And every time I talk to my grandma, I'm like, come on, grandma, like, come on.
One thing I've encountered, I just realized it's problematic to people over like on the East, is a lot of people, they'll say vacuum, like vacuum the carpet or the room. I just learned it's a Midwestern thing to say sweeper. So
I've heard run the sweeper. I hear that around here every once in a while.
I guess like I was just the other week, I was warning because I was about to sweeper the house. My boyfriend, he has a dog that sheds a lot, so we have to vacuum quite a bit. And I was just warning him that, hey, I'm about to sweeper, like just in case he was going to be on a call or something, so he would know. And he's just like, what are you talking about? I'm just like,
like the broom is in the closet. Like I got, like, it doesn't make noise. You're good.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, that's right. So it's just little things like that, or like gym shoes,
like sneakers.
Gym shoes.
I hate the way you just said that to me. By the way, I don't appreciate that. Gym shoes.
You're gonna put some respect on.
No, I hear you. No,
and I think I read somewhere that gym shoes is specific to Cincinnati, and my family is from Dayton, Ohio, which is just a sneeze away from Cincinnati. So I was
is that an official term of measurement? A sneeze? That's what we're doing now. We're just it's like a. Oh, that's hilarious. So welcome, Cara, to the show. And today, so as I said from the beginning, we're just gonna have a conversation about how we feel that race affects the theater industry, and kind of want to hear your experiences. And I think Cheney and I have some experiences as well. But for you, what kind of drew you originally to musical theater? When did you realize that was something that you were interested in, and something that you wanted to participate in?
Well, I would say the thing that sort of got my foot in the door for it was when I was since I was little, I really liked to sing. And so, in theater, they usually ask you like, are you a singer? Are you an actor? Are you a dancer? Are you a triple threat? Are you an actor that can sing? Are you a singer that can move well? Right. So I started out as a singer. Like that was the thing that came naturally to me. I never took vocal lessons, simply because my parents are just like, we ain't paying for that, which I respect it. They fed me with me. They did their job.
That's enough. That's enough, right?
Exactly. Like I can't be, getting bitter over the extra. But yeah, so the closest I got to like vocal lessons was being in choir. So I was in choir. The first time I was in choir was in middle school. And then in high school I continued to do choir, and I really wasn't I didn't even think of theater as a possibility. My mom liked like golden age of Hollywood musicals, like on Moonlight Bay or Singing in the Rain, and stuff like that. So she introduced me to that, and I love stuff like that, but I never envisioned myself being that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So one day I was a freshman in high school, and at this point in time, I lived in like Western PA, and Are you familiar with like Altoona?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't live in Altoona, but we were close. It's just
It's a sneeze away from wherever you were. Or was it a little more than a sneeze? I'm just trying to understand the measurement system here.
Maybe a couple of sneezes away from Altoona. I mean, we were close enough to where, like, in elementary school, we went to like Altoona Curve as like a field trip, so it wasn't like that far.
Gotcha.
So, you know, I lived in like a small town. Some people might describe it as like the boonies. You know, it was like a country small town.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, ninth grade, I took, because you're supposed to take like certain extracurriculars, and you had a choice between like theater, something else, and something else. So I was like, you know, I'm going to do theater. So I took the theater class, and the theater teacher was like, okay, I am directing the school musical. And at the time, the musical was Bye Bye Birdie. And
I'm just going to say this now. I respect the golden age of Broadway and all of the older, more non-contemporary shows, but there are some productions that I have trouble sitting through. And Bye Bye Birdie is one of the longest and most uninteresting musicals to me. Maybe I just haven't seen the right production. But
well, yeah. Here's the thing about Bye Bye Birdie. I think there's some I categorize musicals in different ways from the perspective of a performer.
Sure.
There are some shows or musicals that are funner to be in than to watch. And there are some musicals that are funner to watch than to be in. You know, I would say Bye Bye Birdie is funner to be in than to watch, because I will say I've done Bye Bye Birdie twice. I did it my freshman year of high school, and I did it my junior year of high school, because I moved my sophomore year. That's then the high school, I moved to Southern California. My parents did. And the musical they ended up doing my junior year was Bye Bye Birdie. And I will admit, and this is probably a combination of me being like really young and probably not like focused, but the first time I did Bye Bye Birdie, by the end of it, I didn't know what it was about. You could have been like, you know, I was a whole character, and you could have been like, what is Bye Bye Birdie about? What's the theatrical themes of the show? And I would have been like, I don't know, but I know I got to be here on stage and, you know, act like a fangirl.
Something about the grandma being the funniest character in the show. Something that's all I could tell you. So,
I think the funniest character in the show is the dad, Mr. McAfee, who's obsessed with Ed Sullivan. I think he's pretty funny, and I think Comrade Birdie has the potential to be really funny.
Maybe I just saw not because I will not say the school that I. Of course, again, I should say I primarily indulge in high school theater these days, and I will never say what school that I saw it at. Because my standing in the community has to remain as such. So maybe it just wasn't that interesting of a production. Maybe it just I don't know. Everyone does Bye Bye Birdie every year, so
it's hard to follow as an audience member. It's hard to follow what exactly the plot is. And you know, Bye Bye Birdie is kind of like a spoof of Elvis. Basically, like you have the teenage, like 1950s heartthrob, and then they go off in the military. That's Elvis, and he has the same singing style. So sometimes, maybe depending on the audience, if it's a younger audience, that might fall flat, you know, because that was a different era, and that was probably more of like a older boomer type. Jam, you know, Elvis and them. But I mean, a lot of people like know Elvis. But the plot is just, unless you're really paying attention, which most average everyday people, their focus is gonna stray sometimes. Unless you're really paying attention, it can be hard to follow the plot. The music, I think, is catchy. There are some cute bops on that musical, but in that musical. But anyway, so my theater teacher was like, I'm directing Bye Bye Birdie, and you have two options. She's like, either you're going to spend all of this time in the workshop completing a certain amount of hours to help us build the set and or you can be in the show. So the way I thought about it, I'm just like, well, dang, like, I don't want to be in the workshop. I'm not gonna, I'm like, I'll just be in the show. So my best friend and I, at the time, we auditioned, and it's very funny because I didn't really take the audition too seriously. I was very lighthearted about it. I was kind of doing it more out of, this is a requirement for my theater class and I'm just having fun. So they let you choose like you had to sing a song from the musical for the audition, and then you had to pick like a scene to act out, and you could pick which one. They gave them to you ahead of time. I picked English teacher, Rosie's song, and then I did a scene where it was like the grandma or Kim McAfee. Like my choices made no sense. Like it wasn't apparent like what I was going for. I was just having fun. I was like, oh, this scene's funny. And so eventually, they put up the cast list, and I turn out to get the part of Nancy, which was unheard of because they had a rule at this high school where in the musical, freshmen were always in the ensemble, no name parts. No name parts. And Nancy in Telephone Hour has her own little solo, you see. And so those type of parts were usually reserved for like people who were seniors or juniors who got rejected from the lead. They got first dibs on supporting and like cute little cameos that had like little solos and stuff like that on stage time. So I was super excited. I just got the funky little part of Nancy, but I was just like, oh my goodness, like my first debut as a main character. Now, some of the seniors weren't digging it. So I didn't really have too many people liking me during that show. I kind of went unfazed about it though. Like there were some people who were kind of like bitter Bettys, and the choir teacher who was the musical director, we got along very well, and he was one of the people. His name I believe was Mr. Swope. And he taught me so much because he was the choir teacher, and I thought he was a fantastic teacher, but he would give me praise and encouragement, and some people I think like took that the wrong way during the rehearsal process, or it just they felt some type of way. So I got like criticized and picked at a lot, I think, by those senior classes, but it was still a good experience for me, and that was my first theater experience. And after I got a taste of that, I was hooked. It was just so much fun to me, and I was just like, wow, like I can do more stuff like this. So
we have eerily similar backgrounds in terms of how we started in our theater process. So when I was growing up, I did not know that I had any abilities whatsoever. I still to this day, I'm surprised some days when I do things that I do, but as Cheney will tell you, I can't do anything. So, when I started in high school, my freshman year, like you, I kind of just the freshman year production for me was The Music Man. And so I did not know anything about musicals. No one in my house liked musical theater at the time. There was never, but I had done musicals at church. So every year we had a Christmas musical around church, and it was, everyone had a part. If you wanted a part, you had one. And, back then it was like whatever. So I didn't know that I could sing or that I could act or whatever. And so I had seen our pastor's daughter in her time in high school was in The Music Man, and we had gone to see it. And so I've never been a big sporty person. I'm not good at any sport I've ever played, literally ever. And so it was just like, let's give this a shot. Let's just see what happens. Let me go to audition. So like you in the audition, I don't even remember. I think my first audition, I might have sang Isn't She Lovely from with Stevie Wonder song.
Yeah.
because I honestly did not know any musical theater songs to even be able to audition. And at that point, if you wanted a lead, you could audition with
that's my mom.
Hi, Mom.
That's my girl. I call my mom my girl.
Well, I appreciate that. You got to have someone in your corner. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, if you wanted a lead or supporting role, I think you had to do a song from the show. But if you just wanted to be in the show, you could just sing kind of whatever. Just wanted to hear what you could do. So I went into the audition not knowing what to do. I didn't know what to sing or what to say or whatever. So I went in, did my little thing. And when the cast list was posted, I was put into the barbershop quartet, which is, you know, a fairly important role in the show, and you have to have some singing ability to be in the show. Now I'm gonna keep it 100.
It's a hard part, because if the harmonies are tight, it's
Cara,
a laughing moment.
Let me tell you how not tight our harmonies were. We were the barbershop quartet that sang everything in unison, because there was some stuff that happened, so we had to replace the high tenor of the group, and it was kind of like a thrown together thing at the end kind of thing. So we and I didn't know enough about music to know like how to follow notes or how to do any of that stuff. So I was just kind of sing what I remembered, and I probably was one of the major problems, but it was a disaster. They eventually by showtime was just like, you're singing everything at the same, you're just singing everything in unison. So it was probably the worst barbershop quartet in the history of barbershop. Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I think, you know, in the little ice cream song, we might have been able to ice cream. We might have been able to do that. But then when we got into Light a Rose and all the other songs, I'm pretty sure it was all in unison. So it's kind of defeated the purpose. And I was going to give up. Like I had a great time. It was so much fun. I made a lot of friends that year, but I didn't know anything about musical theater. I didn't know, still didn't really know, especially because of how traumatic that experience was for me. I didn't know that I had any abilities. I just thought that was it. And then a senior who was graduating that year stopped me like the last night of the show. And I'll never forget his face. I'll never forget his name and what he said to me. And the gist of what he said was, this is where you need to be. This is where you belong. Don't give up. Oh. And I will never forget the exact words he said. I'll never forget the moment and the place that we were behind the stage. And he'll never watch it. It's all right. He does. So I appreciate him for that.
It's like he's sitting here watching all bitter because you won't shout him out.
I don't think I've ever told anyone who it actually was, but I'll tell you why I won't say it. I'll tell you later. But from when he said that, I was just like, okay. And then I joined choir that next year. And so that kind of just, you know, then I fell in love with theater, and all up until so I took a break actually from the time I did high school shows. And then, as you know, we did a show together, and this is where we met my freshman year of college. I was in Rent, and that was a cool experience. And I think if I could do that show again, knowing what I know about myself now, I wish I could go back and actually accept the role that was offered to me way back when. But I was much too insecure in my youngness. So I really wish I could go back and do it all over again. But so that's where we met. And, you know, that was the last show that I did until 2 years ago. My first year teaching. So I took a while break, a hiatus, and I did some work with my high school director is a really good friend of mine now, Russ Wynn. Cheney, you know Russ. So he's a really good friend of mine now. And so I would go back and I would help him with his shows and stuff that he had done. But I hadn't been on stage until and Maggie, if you're still watching, I actually the show that I did with Maggie Abel, who had commented a little while ago, she was the director, was the first show that I had been in a long time, and that was Driving Miss Daisy. And what's crazy about that is I had never done a play. So you said, like, you know, they're often in the theater world, you think of singers, you think of actors or dancers, or sometimes Maggie, it was absolutely my pleasure. And so I did not think that I was much of an actor. I always saw myself as a singer who could dance, and kind of just made my way through acting. Cheney, watch your mouth. If you want to say something, unmute your mic and say something. But dancing, I might not be the greatest dancer ever, but I can learn it quickly and at least be able to mimic what's supposed to be being done. But I never saw myself as much of an actor. So when the opportunity to be in the play arose, I was like, well, now I'm really going to be, laying it all on the line. And then I had some feelings also about the show and what it meant. And it's kind of leading into the discussion that we're going to be having. Cheney, look at what your brother just said in the comments. I'm not even going to bring it up. But that's kind of what leads us to where we are now. So have you ever had any experiences in, well, I guess let's talk about this. There's a couple questions I have for you, as well as just want to talk to you about your experiences in the theater. So as you began to audition and as you began to fall in love with theater, has there ever been a time where you felt that you were unlikely to get a role because of the color of your skin, or because of all of that entails and what it means? Because as I look at you and as I know who you are, you can pass for a lot of things. And so I can see, if I'm putting my typecasting glasses on, I could typecast you as this light-skinned woman who could potentially just be white with a tan, or put you into the Hispanic side, or even maybe for some in a show like Ragtime, or a show like something like that, where you would be expected to see a black female role. But have you ever felt like there was a time for you that you walked into an audition not sure that you were going to get the role because of what you look like?
Yeah, so it might be a little hard to see kind of like my tone, because I'm like sitting literally right in front of a window. So I'm like,
yeah.
My mom says didn't like Rent.
Yeah, she didn't like Rent.
She's a more traditional type of gal, like Wizard of Oz type of tea.
Listen, I did not tell my parents about Rent and the actual, because we've only seen the movie edition. They'd never known about the stage edition. So like Contact, which is still haunts me to this day, by the way. I did not warn my family that they were coming, that part was happening.
Difficult for anyone. I mean, it's
for my dad, who was a pastor, and my girlfriend at the time and her family who were coming, who I also did not warn that scene was happening. It was quite shocking to see an orgy taking place on stage behind a curtain. So Jane, that's it was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever done on stage to this day.
I remember what you did for Contact. You were holding up like the sheet, right?
Yeah.
And you kept doing one move.
Yeah, because I was uncomfortable. I did not want to be there.
Yeah, Professor Elliott kept telling you, like, Abin, we need more, we need something different. But you kept doing this. You were like,
yep, that's all you get. That's it. That's all. Like, I'm out. I wanted to trade place with Micah holding the lamp so bad. I was so jealous. He got to stand on that platform and hold that lamp and just stand there. I wanted to be him so bad. But anyway, that's okay. So, I like to forget about those times in my life. But anyway, continue.
But to the original question, I had trouble with lighting, because like if I close this, I start looking like kind of dingy. Like I have like a salt Himalayan lamp here, and then I start orange, and then I like you saw me struggling with like lighting before.
Yes, it's all good.
And then I do this, and then I look like overexposed, and it like washes out like my
feet. Now you're gone.
Now in terms of like, I'll break it down in a couple of things. In terms of white roles, that's a struggle, because as you can see from my hair, it's a dead giveaway. So it's like you're not going to pass, for Dorothy, and you got a puff on your head. Like it's just not happening. There was a role in particular. So my senior year of high school, I had never had a lead at that point, and I was really hoping that I would be able to get a lead, a supporting role, like something a little bit more significant with more responsibilities. And so my high school theater teacher said, the musical we're doing is Little Women. And I was just like, no, because, Little Women, it's like colonial, like USA. And, most of the people in our department were white, and it's a white show, and so I was just like, well, how am I gonna be a March sister, or the mother? And I'm sitting up here with a whole puff on my head, and everybody else has blonde hair and blue eyes. It's just not going to work. But then my theater teacher, he was very awesome. Shout out to Derek Hyde and his wife, Megan Hyde. Probably some of the biggest influences on me as a performer today. He just touched me in a way that really pushed me to keep performing. But Mr. Hyde said, and because I think he could see the look on like my face and like the Filipino kid's face. And, when he announced that, he's like, I just want to make it clear that we will not be casting based on race. It is going to be pure talent. He's like, if we have, this like mix up of people, then, oh no, I think that's my sister. So I'll get to the wig later. So he's like, whoever is the best is who's going to be cast. So I felt a lot better at that point, that it was kind of like a colorblind, like Brandy and Whitney Houston Cinderella type of tease.
Yeah.
And so, like I really put in a lot of work for that. I was so silly. I drank water, room temperature water, and tea and honey for like 2 months. That was all I drank in preparation for this audition. Like I really thought I was doing something, like I was getting a strategy down. Like I had a whole plot to try to get, Joe March. So, the auditions come and go, and I got the part. But going in, me being a person of color, in particular, a person who is half Black, half white, so a Black adjacent person, or if we're talking in terms of ethnicity, an African-American person, I was just worried because obviously if the rest of the sisters are white with blue eyes and, sandy blonde hair, I'm going to stick out. There was this joke in the show among some of my castmates, because I was Joe, and then everybody else, like all the other sisters, Beth and Amy and all of them, Meg, they were like white, blonde hair, blue eyes, light brown hair, blue eyes. Like that's just how it turned out. And so they made this joke that I was the milkman's daughter. It was like, I'm Meg, I'm Amy, I'm Beth, I'm Joe. Like,
he's screwing the milkman. Well, that'll end up with you being in Chicago real quick. So you got to be careful with that one.
Yeah. So, it's instances like that. I think also something that concerns me is like really like the type of shows like local theaters pick, shows that like the university that we went to would pick and things like that, because as someone who can, there's kind of 2 slots I can fit in. There's the Afro theater, so more of like the African American like theater shows, and then there's Latinx show. So like I did West Side Story, and I did it at Ephrata Performing Arts Center, and like some parts of like the Lancaster region aren't as diverse as others. So they really wanted to make sure that people who were casted as sharks were at the very least people of color. And then, the added bonus of actually getting in like Latinx representation. And they were, so adamant about that they actually reached out to people after the initial audition to see who was interested, to make sure those spots were by people who phenotypically, at the very least, were appropriate for those spots. Right. So I remember the director, Ed, he reached out to me. I didn't even audition for the EPAC season. I didn't audition. I didn't even really know what was going on. And he reached out to me, and he was like, would you be interested in coming to the West Side Story callback for Anita? Because, you know, maybe he just wanted more options beyond what showed up to the initial audition for that. And I said, yeah, you know, because West Side Story has always been like one of my bucket list shows. It's a big show. So, you know, and so those are kind of like the two categories I fit into. Now, in terms of like representation roles, like if we're specifically talking about roles that are for maybe like multiracial people, they're just simply not really there.
Yeah.
It's like I can name a bunch of shows for monoracial Black people. I can name a bunch of shows for monoracial white people. But it's like, name me a musical theater lead that is specifically for a multiracial person. And if we even want to go deeper, for a person who's half Black, half white.
Right.
They're just not there. So either way, it doesn't exist, at least not right now. That's specifically for that type. So either way, I'm going to be taking up space if I want to, you know, do significant parts in theater. I'm going to be taking up space of something that's not quite me, regardless of what I do. But I at least try to make sure I do have limits in terms of that. Like, if, for example, if we were doing, if there was a musical like, I'm trying to think, Nina Simone, the musical, I would never throw my hat in for Nina Simone, because Nina Simone was a dark-skinned woman. And that is an important part of her story and her journey as a performer in a racist industry, right? So I would never put my hat in for something like that, because I just think that would be inappropriate and not really a good relaying of the story, of the struggle she went through as a dark-skinned woman with obvious Afro features. So, you know, I just do what I can. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you know, it's really hard, like reading the room of what I can try out for. The last show I did before the pandemic, it was in November of 2019. I did Hunchback of Notre Dame at Wilburn Stone Theater, and I played Esmeralda. So that's kind of like a role where it can easily be like ambiguous and like I have that gypsy like look. So a role like that is pretty comfortable for someone who phenotypically looks like me. And I think even under like the official character descriptions, I think they specifically say that, you know, preferably like, you know, either someone who's like ethnically ambiguous or someone who has darker features, you know. So maybe that kind of ish count, but it's not part of her story. It never says like Esmeralda is, you know, a blunt. Like that's not in there. So.
Yeah.
I do.
Cheney, I think Cheney had a question a little bit ago that I don't know why his mic is muted, but he had a question, I think. So if you remember what it is, Cheney, and then I have a couple questions.
It's my only question of the
your question of the day.
Yeah, the question of the day, the usual. I guess it goes for both of you. Has there ever been, like, when you audition for stuff, right? You know what you're auditioning for because it's like, oh, I'm, you know, pretty much that character, you know, like Black, Hispanic, you know, tall, short, you know, whatever. You know, you go for that. Has there ever been a time where there was a role that you were like, you know, a role that you guys want to do, and like you just don't see yourself doing it because you can't right now? You know what I mean? Like if it's a white role or something, but you really want to do it. Like one day, you know, hopefully like things change and you can do it. It's like, do you guys have like any of those roles?
1.5 million, but Cara, I'll let you go. I'll let you go first if you want.
You can go first because I just got done like talking for 18 minutes. So
Shaylin is telling you to stop, Cheney, because that was her question. And Shaylin is that's my fiance. And she did have a couple questions, and we'll get there, Shaylin, I promise. but yes, and this is one of the things that I was thinking of as Cara was speaking. But just, when you think of traditional age Broadway, especially, and we talked about this a little bit with Seth also, when you think about traditional shows, like a Singing in the Rain, or you think about a Thoroughly Modern Millie, you think about Hello Dolly. These shows are written for white audiences and predominantly for white voices and for white people. And so it is nerve-wracking and scary a lot of times to say, I really I really want to do this part, but I know it's not written for me. And to be able to step into that place, like, for example, when I was a junior in high school, I was cast, and it was what I wanted, but as Horace Vandergelder in Hello Dolly. Now, if you know the show, you got Barbara Streisand in the movie, at least on stage at some point. You got Barbara. You think about Barbara. You think about Yonkers, New York, and being the owner of a business, of a successful business, and being rich in Yonkers at the time. That's not for a black person. No black man was owning a business and having 2 white employees in Yonkers, New York, at that time. And so my good friend Russ, the director, cast me in that role, and I was still in high school at the time, and I'm thinking, like, people that are coming to see the show are going to be like, whoa, that's that's Black Horace. That we don't see that. I mean, what black person, Horace Vandergelder? I mean, come on, like, that's not written for someone who's black. That's just not. And I did the show, and it was a great time. And even like my senior year when we did Children of Eden, I was cast as father, and that's, in the show's perspective, that's supposed to be who God is, and most people don't think of God and see black. So I'm just like, and there have definitely been shows that I have looked at, and even that CTL has done, that I've looked at and said, I'm probably not auditioning for that because I don't see myself as that character. I don't see myself represented as that character. I don't relate to that character. Probably not going to happen. Probably not going to be cast. I mean, I auditioned for Sweeney Todd, and for a lot of reasons, I think I wasn't cast in the show. Mainly, I was super unavailable. My dad was unable to drive at the time, and so I had to be his chauffeur to a lot of different places. And so that was, knowing Seth and knowing everyone there, it's not like my race had anything to do with it. It was simply I was just unavailable a lot. But there were, even for auditioning for a show like Sweeney Todd, I was super nervous to audition for that because I'm thinking, like, this is England in the whatever year that was. Probably not looking at a Sweeney Todd, a barber, a black barber at that time, owning his business and doing all that stuff. It's just like, things like that, especially when you think about traditional Broadway. And now as you get to more contemporary shows, I think that a lot more contemporary shows give you a little bit of leeway in terms of racial ambiguity and being able to fit into any role. But there are still times when I'm going to be nervous to audition for roles because I feel like I won't be able to portray the character appropriately, and the backlash from that.
Yep. Okay, I guess the baton is passed off to me.
Yeah, that's your turn.
So one thing I guess I forgot to touch on when I was kind of talking about like auditioning for certain roles and being worried that my my race, my physical show vote. I like that show. Where I'm worried that like me culturally and phenotypically, won't fit a role. It's not just even about looks, it's also kind of about vocal type, because when I was first starting out, because my influences in terms of singing was basically the people that my mom exposed me to. So that's going to be like people from like the R&B scene and like even like back in like the 50s and 60s, and people like the Supremes and those were sort of like my influences in terms of like how to sing. Jennifer Holliday, Dreamgirls. My mom had like a Jennifer Holliday CD, and she played it almost every day. So, those were my influences, and that taught me how to sing. So from the jump, my voice was always a belty, soulful voice, because culturally, that's what influenced me. Now, bring in musical theater, especially, I guess, back when I was, in high school and stuff, like the face of Broadway is starting to change a little bit, like the type of shows they're doing. It's moving, I think, a little bit in a different direction that's more inclusive.
I agree.
But back in those times, like, and especially since high schools really want to do like rated G stuff, you know what I mean? Like, they don't want to get, like, some do, some don't, but most err on the side of caution. So they just do like the oldie stuff, like Singing in the Rain, or Meet Me in St. Louis, So a lot of or Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and a lot of those shows, they had a certain ideal vocal type back in that time. Women weren't belty, soulful. Those were not the people in Wizard of Oz, Meet Me in St. Louis, da-da-da. It's like the light, lyrical soprano. And that wasn't, the type of voice that was at the forefront of the music that I culturally grew up with. So for me, it was really hard at the beginning to adapt to that style, because that was just simply not my vocal type. And yet a lot of theaters, whether local or a school or university, that's what they would choose to do, especially since, with white people being the majority in a lot of places and the majority in this country, that's who they catered to in terms of what shows are you interested in doing. So even if there's even if the roles don't have to be a certain race, like let's say Putnam, or I guess there could be some soulful moments in Putnam, but just like things like that, where it's just like bubblegummy, singing in theater, it's just like, not exactly like my vocal jam, or, Legally Blonde. It's like, oh,
that was great, God. By the way. That was wonderful.
Thank you. Legally Blonde. And so, as someone who might have vocal types more like yours or mine, Abin, we're constantly having to vocally adapt. And I guess the pro to that is it's made me a more diverse singer. So in one moment, I can sing a song from Memphis, and then the next moment, I can sing a song from Little Women. You know what I mean? Or Wizard of Oz. But it's just unfortunate. It's, to me, it doesn't, sometimes it rubs me the wrong way that it seems like one side is always the one accommodating the other side, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Just like
yeah, agreed. Your mom says hair also.
Hair.
I think she's adding that to the list of musicals that.
Hair. There's some soulful moments in Hair, and there's definitely been Black performers who have performed in Hair. But even with Les Mis, initially, back when Les Mis first came out, and for a while until maybe I think it was the late 90s or early 2000s, Lea Salonga played Eponine. So Eponine is a role. It's one of my bucket list roles. But back in the day, Eponine, especially since it was the French Revolution, the time and the context, everybody, unless maybe you were in the ensemble, was for the most part white. And now, now people are slowly starting to adopt, I call it the Hamilton philosophy, where, even though historically it might be inaccurate, you just kind of colorblinded. Or you know what? I think it should be attributed actually to Brandy and Whitney Houston's Cinderella. I think they kind of really broke the glass ceiling on that. But there was a certain moment where I didn't necessarily see myself, being able to get an Eponine, but nowadays kind of different. It's different. Like we've had all sorts of people play Eponine on Broadway and whatnot. So
yeah, I think that traditional or contemporary Broadway is definitely shifting into focus. Where I wouldn't necessarily say colorblind, because we've talked about the issues with the phrasing of colorblind, but just that people are okay not writing roles for a specific person or for a specific race, unless it is necessary to tell the story. And like the story of for example, let's think of what, like the story of Mamma Mia realistically doesn't change if the daughter. I mean, actually, thinking about Mamma Mia, I guess I should change that, because it really does change the difference. If, like, for example, if the dad is black, chances are you have to have a biracial daughter,
right,
or at least one dad who is of color, or all the dads of color, because then you really don't know who your dad is. You really are guessing with, you got 2 white dads and 1 black dad, and then a completely white female.
And then I pop out with my haircut, and I'm like,
sorry, guy, that's not your kid. So it's like, so you got to really think about shows that maybe the race does not matter, or changing the race won't change the storyline. And I think your mom hit the nail on the head. Most musicals, or at least traditional musicals, were not made for people of color in mind. And so, kind of on that same token, another question that my fiance had asked, Cheney, you were going to say something, or am I okay to ask the question?
No, yeah.
Go ahead.
I realized that was true when Ruby told me that Grease it doesn't have to be white.
No, I mean, Grease, if you think about, and even one of the productions that I saw Grease at Williamsport High School several years ago, and the lead who played Danny Zuko, one of the best singers I've ever had the pleasure of singing with, his name was Dante Green. He played Danny Zuko. Grease, nothing changes in the story of Grease if you make Danny Zuko or why is her name escaping me? Sandy. If you make them black, nothing changes at all in the story, none whatsoever. By the way, the stage version I'm not a big fan of. I prefer the movie, but
I mean, I prefer the stage version just because it has songs that I really like. Like,
I've just watched the movie 8,000 times in my life, so
Freddie, my love. There's just certain songs.
Freddie, my love. Freddie, my love.
Freddie, my love. Yeah. But the thing is, though, even with Grease, it'll still have people kind of looking a little sideways if Danny Zuko is, like, for example, black, because there was segregation.
Right. That too. You're right. You're absolutely right about that.
And there was no way you were even going to be in the same classes, okay? Let alone everybody was just going to be shooba-dooba-dooba about people interracially dating. Like, it just
that's a great point. So it does change a little bit. That is a great point. I didn't think about that. So my fiance wanted me to ask you, so as I think about, and this is something I think Cheney and I might have discussed on a previous podcast, a lot of times with roles that were traditionally written for non-people of color, if you place a person of color in that role, people often get upset. And so, I think a lot of people would have a problem if they remade Grease tomorrow, and had an all-black cast in Grease, because what they would see, whether they know the stage version or whether they know the movie version, they're looking at Olivia Newton-John. They're looking for a John Travolta, and they have that idea in their mind. And like your mom has added, like Annie, when Black Annie, I mean, everyone calls it Black Annie. No one references it Annie with Quvenzhané Wallace as the star. It's Black Annie.
The disrespect.
Yeah. It has to be something that's different.
They got upset when what's that?
Chloe.
When they did The Wiz and it was an all black cast, like the
which it's The Wiz. I mean, come on.
Right, and they're just like, oh my gosh, like if then you get the people on there. If the shoe was on the other foot and we did an all white cast of The Wiz, you guys would be
the Wizard of Oz. If the Wizard of Oz was ever written.
I was just like, sir, there is an all-white version. It's called The Wizard of Oz. Like, the reason
if the Wizard of Oz was never written, oh wait, that doesn't exactly work.
One of the reasons, pieces like The Wiz are written specifically for Black casts is because pieces like The Wizard of Oz were strictly white casts.
Mm-hmm.
And so it created a space for African American actors that wasn't there before. So it's ironic when they try to come back with if the shoe was on the other foot, by golly, like it makes no sense because it's called The Wizard of Oz, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so people really do complain. I mean, they do that in theater, they do that in Hollywood when Zendaya was gonna play, what's that character's name? Mary Jane. Comic character. Like,
people got upset. People got upset with Spider-Man, with not specifically with Miles Morales, but like there's been talks of having for example, there's been talks of having a Black James Bond. There's been talks of having a Black Spider-Man. There's been talks of having a Black Superman. But every time one of those characters is even broached with the topic of being portrayed as a person of color, everyone is upset because that's not the traditional image in their mind. And if you think about, if we look at Disney and we see Princess and the Frog having Tiana as the princess for the first time, we saw representation in the Disney princesses. But then we see that nothing changes in the storyline, for example, of The Little Mermaid, if you make The Little Mermaid Black. And so when it came out that Chloe, or maybe it's Halle Bailey,
Halle,
whichever Bailey's twin it was, when it came out that she was going to be the next Little Mermaid in the live action remake, people lost their minds because that's not what they see when they close their eyes and think of The Little Mermaid. When they see Ariel, they don't see Black skin, and so people got upset. And
but
so
she's a mermaid, so
it's a fictional. It's like they're fictional characters. Get a grip. Like, come on. And so has there ever been a time for you when you were, Cara, when you were nervous to audition for a role like that? Or have you ever gotten one of those roles and still felt like you were doing a disservice or that you were doing something wrong by being in that position?
By playing a certain role?
Yeah, there was a role that was specifically written in the image of a non-person of color. And then you were given that role that you felt like you were doing yourself or the show a disservice, or maybe that you were doing a disservice to the original writing, if that question makes sense.
Well, there's a couple of roles I've played that I guess were originally for white people in mind. So one would be Joe. We were just high school kids, and there was like a Filipino guy playing Mr. March, and not Mr. March. It was the other guy. I can't remember his name at the moment, but it was just like that wasn't as serious to me. Other time when I was in Legally Blonde, I played Vivian Kensington, and in the movie, like, Vivian Kensington is white.
Like, considering that show specifically, like in Elle Woods, would you ever even contemplate taking a stab at an Elle Woods?
First of all, homegirl don't look good in blonde hair. Second of all,
is that part of the wig storyline that your sister was referencing earlier?
Well, no,
I think we still need to hear that story at some point.
In Little Women, they gave me a wig. They gave me a wig for Little Women, and one of the reasons they gave me a wig was because Jo March, there's a point in the plot where her hair's really long, and then she gets a haircut where it's super short. She like sells her hair for her family, like selfless sacrifice. So I had a long wig, and then I had a short wig, and the wig was the long wig was so crusty by the end of that run. We just beat it up. Us kids, we didn't know how to take care of anything. So,
yes, okay.
But with like Vivian Kensington, the role was originally white. I think sometimes, I don't think I'm doing necessarily a disservice, but sometimes it's a little awkward for me because there's a line in Legally Blonde where one of the Delta Nu sisters, she's talking about Vivian Kensington. It's during the song Positive. And she's like, both her hair and shoes are flat. Why is she so rude? So both her hair and shoes are flat. My hair is not
flat. Yes.
unless the line is, why is her hair laid to the gods? Like, I'm just playing. But it's so what I had to do, and I've had to do this for a couple of roles, and I kind of resent it. What I had to do was I had to have my hair straight throughout all of tech and, you know, all of the weeks we were doing shows. And so when you have to do that with somebody with my texture of hair, that's very damaging to my hair, because that's just not how it wants to be. You know, it wants to be a beautiful little cloud, you know. But, you know, so to accommodate, so when I do have to do maybe like a role that's meant for specifically white actors or people in mind, and they have little cute lines like that that allude to that type of whiteness, I have to then, you know, alter myself. And sometimes the way I have to alter myself is a disservice to me. So like my hair by the end of that run was just like, girl, say hello to the world of heat damage, you know. And you know, that was that. It was unfortunate, but it was just kind of like, you know, a typical day of someone who has certain types of features. So, you know.
So on the flip side, sorry to cut you off. Were you done? Okay. On the flip side of that, I think that there are times in my career and even in the last several years of rejoining the theater world where at times I felt like I'll share my experiences. So when my reintroduction to theater, as I said previously, was Driving Miss Daisy. I did not audition for the show, and I was not considering it, and I was helping out at the school with the school musical, and I just, you know, it just wasn't something I was interested in, because at that time I still never considered myself to be much of an actor, and so I did not think that I would be appropriate for the role. And so I was approached by Maggie Abel, the director, shortly after they had begun rehearsals, looking for a Black actor who was available to do the show, because the person that they had cast to be Hope Colburn had dropped out. And I said no, because I just wasn't interested at the time. And then I think they found someone else, and then again, same issue, they dropped out. And so eventually I said yes, and it was great, and I'm glad that I did the show. But then it happened again. So in the spring, that following spring, they were doing To Kill a Mockingbird, which is fantastic play. And auditions came, and it was right during the musical season. And so I just was not interested in taking on the responsibility. And, you know, I was very busy. I think that was still my first year ever teaching. So it was just like, I was busy and I don't have time for all this. As much as I would love to, I'm sorry, I can't. And so To Kill a Mockingbird came, and I did not audition. And callbacks came, and I still did not audition. And callbacks, I was asked to come and read during callbacks, because again, there was times, you know, when they needed an actor who could do it, and they did not find an actor who they felt was able to do the role. And so it got me feeling like, wow, I'm so glad I can play these roles, and I'm thankful that I got the opportunity to do so. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm ungrateful or that I resent in any way, because I appreciate everyone for the entire experience. But it got me thinking like, man, I really want to be in a production where I'm not feeling like I'm cast because I'm a Black actor. I want to be able to be me in a show. And that's kind of a lot of where this podcast comes from. You know, the name of the podcast is AfroLatinos, and, you know, I'm African American, Dominican, Cheney's born in Puerto Rico. And so we have these identities, but we are so much more than just the identities that we have. And a lot of times, as soon as you identify as something, you're put into a box and expected to do such and such. You're expected to be such and such. And so this podcast is really just designed to be able to be people and just talk about what normal people talk about, you know. And so that's kind of what I'm hoping for, and I still don't know that I've ever been cast in that role outside of high school, where, you know, I can say that I was just me and I got to act and prove that I'm more than just a Black actor. But I know that show's coming and I know that day is coming. But was there ever an experience before you or for you where you felt like the only reason you were cast was because of your skin color?
I mean, there have been times where I know like certain directors have said, you know, we picked this show with you in mind for this role, which happens to be a person of color. And we know that combined with it not being a white role and combined with the vocal demands, like the vocal type you have to play it, we know that basically our options are limited. And it's basically between me and maybe one other person, but not really. So yeah, there have been times where I've kind of felt like, now, ladies, let me tell you a story. And we're now going to jump into the world of plays, because there came a point with me as a performer where I felt like I was leaning too much on my singing chops. So I decided, Aubin, you know, at Millersville, there was the all campus musical organization, and I did like ACMO stuff or like musicals that University Theater was doing. And so I decided for a year just to do plays, to challenge myself to be a better actor. And so the first play I did was Bury the Dead, in which I got like a decent role with that. I got one of the lead roles, and I played across from Louis, if you remember him at all. Maybe not. And then the second play I did was Macbeth. Now, that was very intimidating to me because Shakespeare is no joke, you know what I mean? It's not easy. There's a certain rhythm you have to, you know, say your lines in. You know, the diction's got to be on point. So I auditioned hoping I would be a witch. I thought the witch's part was cool. I thought it kind of fit like me, and it wasn't too much pressure either, because there's like two other witches with you like all the time on stage. And so after I auditioned, I ended up getting Lady Macbeth, which I was not expecting. And the guy who played Macbeth across from me is Latino. So the thing is, with my phenotype, I've never been mistaken as white in my life, because hello, but I have been mistaken for like Puerto Rican. For example, Chandler, there have been people who think I'm Puerto Rican when they first see me, and sometimes they'll come up to me speaking Spanish like I'm like, ma'am, Lo siento, but you know, you ain't got the right one, you know. Besides that, either people know I'm mixed and they know Black is one half, but they usually get the other half wrong. And that's an interesting conversation, because I've been told, now this ain't my words, but other people's words, I've been told that it's obvious that my mother is Black based off of the way I act. Take that as you will, okay? Because there's all sorts of, you know, like assumptions and stereotypes of, you know, the biracial people who are more comfortable with their African American side most likely had an African American mother, and you know, and that's not a rule book. That's not necessarily true all the time, but they usually can tell that, quote unquote, they can tell my mom is the Black one. And so based off of the assumption my mom is Black, they almost never guess that my dad is white, because they assume like, oh, like, you know, a white man wouldn't, you know, lower himself to be the husband and stay with a, you know, a Black woman. Like, that's just, girl, no. Like, that's kind of, I think, like their line of thinking. And there's been people who have straight up told me this, like unabashedly.
Oh, that's bold.
This. And so I've gotten crazy guesses like Blasian, some people have guessed.
Gotta love that.
Like I'm like half Asian. I'm just like, girl, no. But usually if they know I'm multiracial, they usually guess half Black and then something else that's just like in outer space, or they guess I'm Puerto Rican. That's usually what they guess I am. But back to the original question, what was it? You were asking about.
Have you ever been in any roles that you were specifically given because you were
Macbeth
color?
So
yes, Macbeth. That's what you were.
Experience. There was something interesting that happened. So I played across from a guy. I was leading Macbeth. Macbeth was a guy who was Latino. There was this little murmur, whisper going across the cast, because you know how sometimes theater people are. Like once the cast list comes out, they get a little petty. Because some people might not be happy with the outcome, or they might be judging like, oh, they gave such and such that part. Well, we might as well forget about having a decent show, So
yeah.
There was a murmurs going across the cast where they're like, oh, I think the director might have casted Cara and what's his face together because they kind of look alike. They look the most alike out of the potential pairs of people that auditioned and that he was considering during the callbacks. And they're like, because, they kind of, both look alike, and it's kind of edgy to have some people of color in those roles. Like, he's just trying to like be that girl, be different. That might have been a big factor. And I'm just like, girls, look, and it was the same person who directed Rent, who directed Macbeth, and he's just not that way. He's not going to cast because of that, and we both know that. At the end of the day, I just think maybe he liked the way we read together. And plus, we came up prepared. Like we weren't going to be mushed mouthed and, flipping through the papers. Like, we were both like very serious about the callback, and we were very prepared. So I think at the end of the day, that's what it was. But it's kind of like, even if you get certain roles that are typically like given to white people, or was written by white people for white people, they kind of think you're like the token in a way.
Right.
If you get it, like, oh, they're just trying to be that sickening DEI girl, And so sometimes that can make you feel a little, insecure about like, did I actually get it because I got it, or
right. Yeah, and I think that is something that we're probably going to have to fight with, and a concern that we're probably going to have to deal with until there is a dramatic transformation. And as we've said, we do see some of those transformations taking place in contemporary Broadway now. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens and what shakes out. Do you have any other thoughts about the conversation, Cara? Anything else you wanted to add?
I don't know. Like, I'm not the host. I'm not going to be stepping on your toes.
No, there's no offenses at all. But if you are okay with where we are in the conversation now, I think this would be a great time to transition to our last segment of the day. Are you ready? I kind of warned you about this. I did leave a small detail out, which I have a surprise for you in a couple minutes here. Okay. So this is our segment, one of our favorites, and actually this is the last time that this segment will be done on the actual podcast. It's actually transitioning to a standalone show, which will be live every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. So this is called You Think You Know. And this edition of You Think You Know is called You Think You Know Musicals. And so let me explain to you how this works. And for people who have never watched the show before, if this is your first time, feel free to listen carefully. In just a moment, Cara, I'm going to be reading 15, or Cheney and I will be reading 15 descriptions of Broadway musicals.
Okay.
In 30 seconds or less, you will have to give us the name of the musical that is being described.
For each one, 30 seconds for each.
Each one, 30 seconds for each.
Okay.
And on You Think You Know, we only take your first answer. So whatever you tell me first, whatever we hear first is what we got to take.
Okay.
So
so intense.
You have as much time. You have as much time in that 30 seconds, of course, as you need to answer. So take your time. Think about it a little bit. Our goal for the episode today is to figure out how much you think you know about musicals. Now, Chandler, what are we going to say?
These are descriptions.
Descriptions, yes.
Yeah, I was like, why are these questions so goddamn long? But I see.
No, they're descriptions. Now,
well, basically,
Cara,
just a segment where you try to catch me slipping.
Pretty much. That's exactly the description. That's a perfect way to describe it. Now, Cara, I have a surprise for you. Today, on this episode, as this is our final You Think You Know for the regular podcast, I have a lifeline for you. Okay?
Seth?
I'm going to give you a phone a friend in the form of none other than Mr. Seth Spawnhouse. Hello, Seth.
Cara Clase.
Sethosaurus. Girl, how did I know you were about to cloud up this session?
Cara, Clase.
Yeah, that's an audition reference, by the way. I auditioned for a show Seth was directing, and he pretended like he didn't know my last name. So I came out to audition, and I said, I was just like, hey, like, because they asked us to like state our names. I'm like, hey, I'm Cara. And they're like, first and last, please. I'm like, okay, fine. Clase, Clase. And they just, it's never gone away since.
Seth, my friend, how are you, buddy?
I'm great. We are in the middle I'm in the middle of our final rehearsal for Bridges of Madison County before we load into the theater tomorrow. So we're in the middle. We just did our costume parade. We're loading the truck now, and then we go into the sits probe. So it's exciting around here. So I'm at the theater.
You have a sits probe today?
We do. Yeah, we have the sits probe today. So final rehearsal, and then we go.
Well, I just thought it was fitting as our first ever guest on the AfroLatinos podcast, and just because we're all family here. That's the MU family right here. So figured we might give you some help in case you need it. Now,
and hold on. First, go ahead, I believe I'm the reigning champ.
He's the highest scorer we've ever had. And
Cara, come on.
Look, I don't think I'm gonna beat Seth. My thing is, I know a lot about musicals that are maybe a little bit older to a certain degree. The new junk, like essentially be trying to throw at us girls, like
Well, the good thing is, I put together a list of widely expansing time in Broadway history. So, you might be all right. So Seth is here for you to use as you see fit.
Is it only musicals?
It is only musicals. 15 musicals only, all from MTI. I took the list while I was at work this morning. So these descriptions, if you have anyone to blame MTI, because these descriptions are straight from their website. So Seth is your phone a friend if you need him. If you feel like you got it, you got it. Audience, if you're watching, who are watching, I should say, you can also chime in the conversation as you see fit, and try to help Cara get a better score than Seth on You Think You Know. Don't worry, Seth. We might have you back on when we move to the live show next week.
They're all going to be MTI shows. It's not going to be anything like Samuel French or anything. No.
Every single one of these 15 shows directly from the MTA website.
Okay.
Cheney, you've got the score, right?
No.
You're on the website, so you have the score, but you just don't know you have the score. So, all right, let me get the timer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Get the timer on the screen. All you got to do is click it. So if you just click, you can click the first one now if you want.
This is
not you, Cara.
When I did that.
Listen, Seth, we've upgraded, man. I don't stay. I'm not content staying basic for too long. So, she doesn't even have one yet. So throw back to the 0. Your starting score right now is. I hear you. I know. I'm sorry. So right now you're at 0 out of 15, and we're just gonna see how much you think you know about Broadway musicals. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. I will start with the first question. And the timer starts after I finish reading it the first time.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Your sister, I believe, if that is your sister, she says good luck.
Thanks, Chloe.
All right, here we go. Set in the 1590s, brothers Nick and Nigel Bottom are desperate to write a hit play, but are stuck in the shadow of... Well, damn, let me finish the whole thing.
Why?
Because somebody might want to, somebody might want to know what the description was. I'm going to finish reading it. Although you are correct, I will finish reading it. Nick and Nigel Bottom are desperate to write a hit play, but are stuck in the shadow of that Renaissance rock star known as the Bard. When a local soothsayer foretells that the future of theater involves singing, dancing, and acting at the same time, Nick and Nigel set out to write the world's first musical. And that's the end. And so typically you would have that whole 30 seconds and then you'd think about it, but you didn't need the time. So out of 15.
Description, or are you going to perform the whole musical for her? Because that was the entire thing. Like, we just read the whole thing to her.
I mean, I actually skipped 2 lines out of the description.
You girls are ready for my rendition of Something Rotten. Okay.
Go ahead. But welcome to the Renaissance. Let's go. I'm ready. All right. Question number 2, Cheney.
All right. His girlfriend wants to get married and move out of the city. His best friend is making big bucks on Madison Avenue, and yet John is still waiting on tables and trying to write the great American musical. Set in 1990, this compelling story of personal discovery is presented as a rock musical filled with instantly appealing melodies and a unique blend of musical theater styles.
Could you read that again?
Yes. His girlfriend wants to get married and move out of the city. His best friend is making big bucks on Madison Avenue, and yet John is still waiting on tables and trying to write the great American musical. Set in 1990, this compelling story of personal discovery is presented as a rock musical filled with instantly...
Seth? I'm going to use the lifeline now. Seth?
Tick, tick, boom.
Oh, yes! That is Tick, tick, boom. Yep. That is. I've seen Tick, tick, boom. Yeah.
The lovely autobiography of Jonathan Larson, who coincidentally wrote Rent.
See, if you would have said Jonathan instead of John.
What did I tell you, Cara? Listen, what did I tell you? Blame MTI.
Eddie.
MTI said John.
Eddie.
So that's all I'm saying. MTI said John. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Prima did a production of Tick, tick, boom several years back, like back in 2016. Mm-hmm. So shout out to Prima.
Am I done now? She used me?
No, you can stay. Just hang out. You're there for all 15 questions, so as much or as little as she needs.
Wait a minute. So I can call upon Seth again?
Sure.
As a life.
Wait a minute. So I'm gonna help her beat my score?
That's right. So give her wrong answers and see if she believes you.
Oh.
Now you got to be sneaky. You know what I'm saying? You got to be ready for it.
I'm gonna know it's incorrect. He's gonna be like cats, and I'm gonna be like
Mac and Mabel.
Oh no!
All right, man. I'm eating candy, and now I got Cheney. Can you ask number 3? I got candy, Mom. Actually,
I got it.
Go ahead. All
right. Based on the Universal Pictures cult classic movie of the same name, this musical follows the journey of a magical and beautiful Greek muse, Cara, who descends from the heavens of Mount Olympus
to
what part of
Venice Beach, California in 1980 on a
I might as well not even finish it. It just doesn't matter because Cara just doesn't know how to follow rules. So, you know what I'm saying? Just give it a 3. It's all right. She got it.
Look,
all right.
I can't help it, girls. It's just how I am. Let's just get down to business.
Let's
not waste anybody's time, right, Seth?
Seth, she might beat you. I'm just saying. Question number 4. Michael Dorsey is a skilled actor with a talent for not keeping a job. Desperate and out of work, Michael makes a last-ditch effort at making his dreams come true by disguising himself as actress Dorothy Michaels. That's all you're going to get. I'm not giving you any more.
Say that one more time.
That's plenty.
Michael Dorsey is a skilled actor with a talent for not keeping a job. Desperate and out of work, Michael makes a last-ditch effort at making his dreams come true by disguising himself as actress Dorothy Michaels.
This is not it. But how to succeed in business without really trying? That's not it.
That is a great answer. I mean, a great wrong answer.
Can I give the right answer?
Go ahead, Seth. Give her the right answer.
That would be Tootsie.
Oh,
Award winning.
I've never seen no Tootsie. No. I've heard of it, but it's just like it didn't draw me in. It didn't draw me in.
Didn't pull you in.
It's okay. You only missed one. You're still doing well. 3 for 4 is not a bad score. 75%, but you can always go up. All right, Cheney, you want me to do this one, or you got this one?
I mean, I can read it. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Also, if Seth doesn't want to help her all the time, beat his score, then you can have like a cooldown, like every other like question or something. That's when you can help.
Cheney, are you just making up rules as we go? But come on, you haven't gotten any better at this. In the last 5 months, you've been running this damn show. What are you doing? Cheney, I had high.
We always make rules on the go.
I was like, I bet Cheney is coming in hot as a talkative co-host with intellectual input, and I'm just seeing none of it.
Never.
No, you're expecting too much out of me, bro.
Cheney, don't listen to the haters. You're doing fine.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're just fine. Just listen to the voice, okay?
All right, question number 5.
A small group of people helped Jesus Christ tell different parables by using a wide variety of games, storytelling techniques, and a hefty dose of comic timing.
Stop there.
I was.
Godspell.
Ruby's in Godspell, so.
Do I hear Ruby right now?
You do hear Ruby right now.
I just came from Godspell rehearsal. Hello.
Well, look at that.
The odds. Oh, I guess
heard Jesus. I said Godspell.
What are the gods?
Ha 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 ha. Oh,
I'm
sorry.
the Amigos
Man.
part of this, right?
I was just thinking of I was just thinking about another one of my favorites. Once on This Island, you said the gods, and I just thought the gods. Great show. Missed that show. All right. Anyway, number 6. On the night of his 35th birthday, confirmed bachelor Robert contemplates his unmarried state. Over the course of a series of dinners, drinks, and even a wedding, his friends explain the pros and cons of taking on a spouse.
Say the first sentence again? I have a guess.
On the night of his 35th birthday, confirmed bachelor Robert contemplates his unmarried state. Over the course of a series of dinners, drinks, and even a wedding, his friends explain the pros and cons of taking on a spouse.
I want to say this is a bad guess. Company?
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah. The only reason that, marry me a little. That gives it away.
I was like, for some reason I was thinking of course.
Saw Company once, at the coincidentally the Community Theater League in Williamsport.
Company on Netflix. Sometimes only bits and pieces relax me depending on how much the musical resonated with me. A white man complaining about not being married just didn't really strike a chord. I just watched it and I was like, that was nice. Click.
But Cara, have you listened to the revival?
No, the one with Patti LuPone in them.
So the revival is a female is the lead.
Oh.
And it's written from the female perspective of being of a certain age, being told you need to marry, and all of that jazz. So it took it out of when it was written, and it really helped.
The song I really like from Company is "Not Getting Married Today." That is so impressive. It doesn't take vocal range, but it's just that speed and that diction.
That was the one set that Aubrey sang, right? When I say he's doing business. I think that's the really fast one, right? The one with a lot of words.
I'm not married today.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that was Aubrey Potash. I think is how you pronounce her name. I think that was her role in CTL. Okay. Next question. Here you go, Cara. Francesca Johnson, a beautiful Italian woman who married an American soldier to flee war-ravaged Italy, looks forward to a rare 4 days alone on her Iowa farm when her family heads to the 1965 State Fair. When ruggedly handsome National Geographic photographer Robert Kincaid pulls into her driveway seeking directions. What happens in those 4 days may very well alter the course of Francesca's life.
You know what? You said state fair. So
I did say state fair.
I'm just going to say, because there is a musical, I believe, called State Fair.
That is.
So I'm going to guess state fair.
And I am going to guess that is an incorrect answer. But our dear friend Seth Sponhouse would love to tell you exactly what this show is.
Is it Bridge Madison County?
It is the Bridges of Madison County.
I don't watch that type of
I was
Clase,
hoping
I think you should
weren't.
take a road trip up next Saturday, 2:00 for the matinee. Come see this beautiful production.
I think
maybe
we
I'm
should.
my man. Who knows?
I think if Cara does that, I hear a meeting that has to take place. I hear of a spot that might be nice for some.
I miss Cara Clase every day of my life. So if I can see her.
All right.
I'll consider it. Send me some information. That might be something fun for Matt and I to do. So.
Yeah. It's a very romantic show. Very romantic.
Okay. Better not be trash, because I ain't driving a couple hours to see some people walking out some off-key notes and some bad acting,
Do I produce trash?
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Can I read?
Oh.
I have to duck out. So Cara Clase, your lifeline has to leave.
Oh, okay.
Oh, this guy.
Send me the info for the show. Send me the info.
I will. Thank you for inviting me, Aubin. This was the perfect thing I needed today. Cara, it was so
You're welcome, my friend.
Nice seeing you again, Seth.
Wait, Seth, don't leave. Don't leave yet. Just give it 1 second.
Okay, I won't leave yet. Oh, there it is.
I just wanted you to see it. I just wanted you to see it real quick. So matter of fact, I'll leave it on the screen for the rest of the show.
County,
There's no dancing bridge, Cara. I hate to disappoint you, but keep it real, y'all. I miss you. Love you all. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Seth. Love you. Thanks for coming. Peace out, bro. Well, looks like your lifeline ran out. So you're all on your own again.
Look, he wasn't about to give me no correct answers anyway. You know how Seth is. He's petty.
He gave you one.
On accident, because he didn't know that there was a choice. Okay.
All right. Well, next.
Number 8.
You're doing well, by the way. You got 5 for 7. You're doing well. The average score is a 10 out of 15. So as long as you beat that,
okay,
you'll be great.
We'll see.
Let's see. Where do I stop?
I know. Right. I given the whole story. Seth might have been right. I just didn't want to give not enough because MTI is very descriptive. I wanted to make sure I had enough, but not enough. So.
All right. Number 8. Elizabeth, a city planner, moves back to New York to restart her life in the city of infinite possibilities when her carefully designed plans collide with the whims of fate. Elizabeth's life splits into 2 parallel paths. This musical follows both stories simultaneously. Jesus.
Forgive him. He does not speak English.
As this modern woman faces the intersection of choice and chance.
This is so vague. That is not enough.
There's only one more sentence, so.
What's the sentence?
I'll read it. This contemporary Broadway musical is about living in New York today and all of the possibilities of tomorrow.
Did that help?
My
what
God.
I just said.
Is it like I love you now change? Or
that's a good one. That's a good guess too.
That's my guess.
I mean, it's a good guess.
It's
the wrong guess, but it's
right.
a good guess. The correct answer is if then.
Oh, see, I don't.
Tom Kit, and you did something for Tom Kit. She was literally. No, never mind. Anyways.
See, the problem is you're doing all MTI, so that's going to exclude most of Andrew Lloyd Webber. That's going to exclude most of Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Listen, I just went with what I knew. I remember I was at work when I did this and put these questions together. Why are you moving the order of people, Jeannie?
I didn't know that was possible.
You're on as the host right now. You can do literally whatever you want. You can literally do whatever you want.
Hey, we're about to bounce back.
It's gonna be. Oh, Cheney, I just had an idea. Why didn't I don't have to do it like this. I just thought of an idea for the next time we do this when we actually. Anyway, I'm sorry. All right, next question. Based on the hit Adam Sandler movie, this musical set in 1985, stars Rocky. Jeez, let me start over, Kara, because apparently I can't read.
And it's The Wedding Singer.
Okay, there we go. Never mind. Good. The Wedding Singer. It seems fun. I've never seen it, but I've listened to some music.
Linda, the slutty ex-fiance.
Love that for you.
Mm-hmm. Moving on up.
Cheney, did you give her her point?
No, because my thing lagged and I didn't hear a single word that you guys said.
Gotcha. Well, she did get that one right. Yeah. Kara, I know you're going to get this right away, but just give it a second.
Okay.
Cheney, if you just made sounds, nothing came out.
Technical difficulties.
Okay, we're back.
Yeah. Okay. I'm reading.
Yes.
The ghost with the most comes to the stage in this edgy and
irreverent
musical comedy based on Tim Burton's dearly beloved film.
You just might as well stop there. That's all you can do. I told you were going to need more than that. If you say it one more time, he might show up.
Beetlejuice.
Nah, he ain't coming nowhere.
I wish.
He's not going to show up here.
Man.
You don't care about. Never mind.
Happened?
It had to do with film, but this is about musical theater, so it's pointless.
Yes. Good thought. All right. Cheney, next question. Can you read the next one for me?
Yes. Katie Heron may have grown up on an African savanna, but nothing prepared her for the wild and vicious ways of her strange new home.
She already knows what it is.
Suburban Illinois.
I'm not even going to put the timer on, Kara. It's a waste of time.
Mean Girls.
Mean Girls is correct.
I could have, but I didn't even know it was in.
What happened?
She said I could have at least took out Katie Heron. I was like, I don't know.
I know. I just put stuff in here.
It still would have been obvious. Growing up on Savannah, wasn't prepared for the mean ways of. Bye. Next question.
All right. Next question. You got it. Question number 12. Is that she's only missed what? 2?
3, I think.
3.
Yeah. So is that the right score? Yes. Okay. Question number 12. I mean, no, she should be 8 for 11 if she's only missed.
She should be 8 for 11. I gave her 2 points.
This guy. All right. A multiple Tony Award-winning theatrical tour de force, this show combines Sondheim's signature blend of intelligently stunning lyrics and beautiful music with a panoramic story of our nation's culture of celebrity and the violent means some will use to obtain it.
Read that again.
A multiple Tony Award-winning theatrical tour de force, this show combines Sondheim's signature blend of intelligently stunning lyrics and beautiful music with a panoramic story of our nation's culture of celebrity and the violent means some will use to obtain it. This is an ideal choice for mature audiences and will challenge your designers as they try to recreate famous moments and people in America's history. We need an answer. Assassins is correct. Nice shot in the dark there, Kara.
Well, it wasn't a shot in the dark. It was just kind of like vague, you know?
Yes. Well, everything else, I really had to chop that one up because everything mentioned the presidents and those who have tried to kill. And I was just like, come on, like that's too easy. I'm trying to make it hard
petty.
Of course, I was trying to make. I couldn't give you all the easy ones. You know what I'm saying? I gave you some tough ones here. So, anyway, question number 13. You got it. You're doing great. You got it, Cheney, or you want me to do it?
Yeah, I got it. I think you know 15. Anyways, all right, number 13. This musical explores how one suburban household copes with crisis and mental illness. Dad's an architect. Mom rushes to pack lunches and pour cereal. Their daughter and son are bright, wisecracking teens, appearing to be a typical American family, and yet their lives are anything but normal because the mother has been battling manic depression for 16 years.
Next to normal.
Correct.
Something like that.
Exactly like that, Shane.
Cheney, did you give her a point for assassins? Okay. All right. You're doing great. You have the potential to get a 12 out of 15, which I think was
That's the tie.
Is that tied for Seth's score? Okay. Wasn't sure. Number 14. This emotionally captivating musical is the only show to have music that won an Academy Award, a Grammy, an Olivier Award, and a Tony. On the streets of Dublin, an Irish musician and a Czech immigrant are drawn together by their shared love of music.
I know it, but I don't know the name.
Oh, gosh. Oh, Once.
That is correct.
I was almost there.
You can't look it up.
No, Mercedes.
I think you know this one.
Kara's going to get this one easily. Easily.
Okay. Would you like me to read this one?
I'm not even going to put this. Matter of fact, let me just take the timer off the screen because it's not even worth it.
Based on the story of Genesis, the age-old conflict of parents and children takes the stage in this epic.
That's all you're going to give
You're
me?
just going to start right there? You're just going to stop at epic in the middle of a sentence?
This epic, heartfelt Stephen Schwartz musical.
Such a good musical.
It's one of my favorites I've ever done. Would love to do it again.
Adam Eve, Noah, and the Father.
Children of Eden.
Yes.
Such
Which I'm a little offended. I'm not going to lie. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kara. What do you say?
Oh, I just said it's one of my bucket list shows.
It is. I got to do that my senior year of high school, and it's one of those shows I would love to do again. But it is one of those like some people would get the rights and you can have like all of these soundtracks on Apple Music or Spotify or whatever. Children of Eden, you get 2 songs. You get, I think, what's the song that it's in Act 2? It's the love song. Oh my gosh.
Whatever time we have?
In whatever time we have, yes. You get that, and I think you get one more, but you don't get all the best songs of the show. Like I was hurt.
What's the other one? Is it like Ain't It Good?
I'm looking right now, which is a fantastic song, by the way. I love that. Lost in the Wilderness is all that you get.
That is my jam. A man who can really sing the heck out of that song. Ooh.
Does your boyfriend sing? Is he a performer also? You ain't had to do him like that. I mean, dang.
Different talents. His talent.
Yes.
I mean, he used to do theater for fun, but he can act, but he can't sing.
Gotcha.
He's just a little bit tone deaf, but that's okay. You know, he's more of like a tech guy. He's really good at photography.
Everybody's got to have their piece. You can't be good at everything.
So crazy.
All right, I guess okay. Did you see Beetlejuice appear? Did you see him show up, Kara?
No, does Seth count as Beetlejuice?
Just look up. Oh, that way. Look up there real quick in that direction, in that general.
Oh, yes. I did see that.
He made an appearance, so just wanted to give you a heads up. All right, well.
At first, I was almost like, Seth, I thought you had to go. But then I was like, oh, that's.
Oh, poor Seth. Cara, this has been a phenomenal time and such a great conversation. So thank you for being willing to join the show today. And you got a 12 out of 15, which is tied with Seth for the highest score on You Think You Know. So I might have to have an episode because we are, as I said, we're moving this segment to its own show, a live show Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. So maybe I can squeeze the both of you in and put you guys head to head at some point, and you'll just see what happens. So we agree. It's a fantastic show. I believe that's in reference to Children of Eden.
Thanks, Mom.
So thank you, Cara, for coming to the show. This has been a lot of fun, and I appreciate you for being willing to join us. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you everyone for tuning in and for being a part of the show. We got some really exciting things happening over the next week that we're super excited to bring you. We will be bringing 4 shows to you every week. We'll talk about that later. Cheney, you're so stupid. We will talk about that later on another episode or a short video on Facebook. So we're very excited for what's happening. You can catch this on our Facebook page as well as our YouTube channel at AfroLatinos. And again, to our guest, Cara, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This has been your co-host, Alvin.
And Chandler.
And everybody, have a good night. Peace, everybody.
Bye.